Hello, my name's Edgar Ochoa. In this video, I'll be going over how to use the blade tool. The blade tool is used in the following machines: in the planet and in the satellite. To use the blade tool, we will follow the following steps. 1. Click on blade. 2. Enter the width. 3. Enter the height. 4. Select the reference vertex. 5. Enter the orientation. 6. Select the figure vertex. In the following examples, I will be going over how to properly fill out this pop-up window. For the first example, we will be using W75 3175, and we will be creating this 1¼ inch notch to clear the vertical. Here we can see that our notch will be two different steps, one for the 1¼ inch cut and the next for the 1 5/16 cut. The first step will be to do this 1 5/16 cut, and then the second step will be to do this 1¼ inch cut. To do this, we will be setting a priority, which will be explained later on in the video. Now, let's go over to our canvas. In our canvas, we will make sure that we have the correct configuration, which will be to the planet. Then we open up the correct DXF file, which is 3175. And then we will create two reference guides, one in the X direction and one in the Y direction. Our X reference line will be at 1¼ inch, and our Y will be 1 inch and 5/16 from this end. Now that we have created our two reference guides, the next step will be to click on blade. Here we will get our first pop-up. We will enter the width, which for this example will be 5.25. Next we will enter the height, which will be 1.5. Our tolerance will always be 0.1181. The reference vertex is the starting position of the blade path profile. For now, we will set this at 1. The orientation of our profile, for now, we will set to 0 degrees. And the figure vertex, which is the direction that the blade will follow. We will always set this to clockwise or default. Click on Next. Select our blade. And since we're using the blade tool, we will check the after separation cuts. Click on Next. We want to make sure we are coming from the correct direction. To do this, we will select this option here. We go back. We have now created our profile. Currently, it's in this direction. The reason being is because our orientation was set to 0 degrees. If we change this to 90, we can see that our profile has changed to be in this direction here. This is the correct orientation. For our reference vertex, we can see this diagram here, which shows us the 1, 2, 3, 4, and 7. We click on Next. Next. We hide our tool for clarity. You can see that this will be our 1, this corner will be our 2, this will be our 3, and this will be our 4. The reference vertex is tied to the starting point, which for now is set to this corner here. If we go back, change our reference vertex to 2, we can see that our reference vertex is now tied to the starting point. Go back, select 3. We have changed. Go back, select 4. And let's move to this location. Now for this example, we will set our reference vertex to 2. Select Next. Now that we have the correct reference vertex, our next step will be to tie our profile to both the X reference guide and the Y reference guide. First, we click on the X reference guide, select yes. We can see that it has moved to the X reference guide. Now we will tie it to the Y, click on the Y guide, select yes, and we can see that it has moved to the Y guide. Now we click on next. Make sure these options are set to our standards, which they currently are, and we will select finish. We have now created the first machining for the first cut. The next step will be to create the machining for our second cut, which will be the 1 5/16 inch cut. We want to make sure we're coming from the back of the part. Select the blade tool. Our width we will leave as 5.25. Our height will leave as 1.5. Our reference vertex will be changed to 3. Our orientation 90. And our figure versus set to default. Select next. Select our blade tool. And once again, click on after separation cuts. Select next. Back one more time. You can see our profile now. Now, if we have noticed that we have incorrectly chosen the wrong reference vertex, there are two different options to change this. One will be to work with our W, H, and X, and the simpler option will be to going back and changing our reference vertex to the correct one. For this example, we are in the correct reference vertex. So now the next step will be to tie our profile to the X and Y reference guide. Again, we click on the X reference guide, select yes. Now we click on the Y, select yes. You can see that our profile is now tied to both our X and Y reference guides. Select next. Make sure these are set to our standards, which they currently are. Select finish. We have now completed the 2 cuts for this example. As mentioned earlier, we want this cut to be first, followed by this second cut. If we double click on our first machining, we can go back one step, and here we will be setting our priority. For this, we will set the set to 1 and the priority to 1. Select next and select finish. Now we click on our second machine, go back a step. On our set, we will select 1 and our priority will be 2. Next and select finish. Here we can see our priority. So our first cut will be this one, followed by this second cut. We can run a simulation. We can see that our priority has been set successfully. Now this has been an example on how to use the blade tool. For the next example, I will briefly go over how we can use the blade tool to do a minor cut. We will be using W75 3175, and we will be creating this 45-degree miter. We go to Canvas, make sure we are set to the correct machine, and select our DXF profile, which is 3175. We make sure we are coming from the back of the part. And then select our blade tool. Our width will be set to 7.5, our height to 4, leave the tolerance as is. Our reference vertex we will leave at 1 for now. Our orientation will be set to 90, and our bigger versus will be set to default. Select next. Here we select our blade. Again, since we are using the blade tool, we will click on after separation cuts. Select next, backwards there, and here we can see our profile. For clarity, we can hide our machine. Now we go back one step. For our reference vertex, this will be our 1, this will be our 2, this will be our 3, and this will be our 4. Now, when we're dealing with the miter, we want our reference vertex to be set to our lock point. If we open up the CAD, we can see that our lock point is here, which will be this corner right here. Going back to campus, we can currently see that our starting point is set to our lock point, as well as our reference vertex is currently set to our lock point. We changed our profile to be to a 45-degree miter. We go to our B, select 45. We can see that our long point and reference vertex are the same. Now we could change this to 2. Like next, we can see that our reference vertex has changed. Back, select 3. Let's change to this location. Back, select this to 4. And let's change to this location. Go back. The correct reference vertex would be 1. Next. Select next. Now that we can see that our profile will cover all of the material, we can select next. Make sure this is set to our standards and select finish. We have now created the machining to take care of the 45-degree miter. We can check to make sure that our machining has been created correctly by going to the Piece tab. We will set this to 45. Click Enter. This adds the 45-degree miter to our part. And if we go to our side view, we can see that the profile that we created aligns with the miter correctly. This has been a quick example on how to use the blade tool to do a miter cut.